Hello all, hope everybody's doing well. So I got into a discussion the other day with a friend about Clive Barker. For me, Clive Barker was probably the most important writer that I ever came across. Probably the most life-changing writer to me. I started reading him when I was about 10 or 11-ish, I guess. And his books just really changed, I guess you could say, the way my mind worked. His style is very eloquent. He has an amazing usage of words, and now that I'm a writer, I've been told that my style is a little bit poetic, and I like that. I like hearing that. But if Clive Barker is the reason for that, so he's the one you can thank or you can blame. Because there's just something in his writing that, through the usage of his words, it really drives the narratives with a certain energy and intensity. So it's not just his stories, because his stories are great, but again, it has to do with even the way he structures his sentences. And so we started talking about this book, Weaveworld. This is a newer edition, which doesn't have the original cover, which I'm hoping to find one of these days. But this is probably my favorite book of all time. I had never read anything quite like it when I was younger. It's more of a fairy tale than anything else, but it's told in modern times. So that added a certain quality to it that I hadn't seen before. But even when you look at this book, this to me is the perfect Clive Barker book, and his introduction here alone is probably, if this is my favorite story of all time, my favorite book, then this intro to me is probably one of the greatest intros to a novel that I've ever come across. So here it is. Here is his intro to Weaveworld. Nothing ever begins. There is no first moment, no single word or place from which this or any other story springs. The threads can always be traced back to some earlier tale, and to tales that preceded that, though as the narrator's voice recedes, the connections will seem to grow more tenuous, for each age will want the tale told as if it were of its own making. Thus the pagan will be sanctified, the tragic become laughable, great lovers will stoop to sentiment, and demons dwindle to clockwork toys. Nothing is fixed. In and out the shuttle goes, fact and fiction, mind and matter, woven into patterns that may have only this in common, that hidden among them is a filigree that will with time become a world. It must be arbitrary, then, the place at which we choose to embark, somewhere between a past half forgotten and a future as yet only glimpsed. This place, for instance, this garden, untended since the death of its protector 3 months ago, and now running riot beneath a blindingly bright late August sky, its fruits hanging unharvested, its herbaceous borders coaxed to mutiny by a summer of torrential rain and sudden sweltering days. This house, identical to the hundreds of others in the street alone, but with its back so close to the railway tracks that the passage of the slow train from Liverpool to Crewe rocks the china dogs on the dining room sill. And with this young man, who now steps out of the back door and makes his way down the beleaguered path to a ramshackle hut, from which there rises a welcoming chorus of coos and flutterings. His name is Calhoun Mooney, but he's universally known as Cal. He is 26 and has worked for 5 years at an insurance firm in the city center. It's a job he takes no pleasure in, but escapes from the city he's lived in all his life seem more unlikely than ever since the death of his mother, all of which may account for the weary expression on his well-made face. He approaches the door of the pigeon loft, opens it, and at that moment, for want of a better, this story takes wing. So how is that for just a great freaking intro? I mean, damn, that just totally pulls you in. And that's the quality of Clive Barker. He writes with a certain passion in his words that I don't see very often. And so, as a kid reading that, I couldn't put the book down. it just pulls you in. And so I guess if there was anybody that I ever wanted to emulate as a writer, it was Clive Barker. And so if you haven't read his work, I definitely recommend it. His earlier work, the Books of Blood, of course, the Weaveworld, my favorite, The Great and Secret Show, Magica, some of my just all-time favorite books. And really, just pay attention to the way he poetically chooses to organize his narrative. And that is that.